Fulton County family is devastated after a man was gunned down in a Bojangles parking lot. His daughter works there, and police say her co-worker is the suspected shooter. Atlanta News First reporter Joshua Skinner is live for us in Palmetto with those details. Joshua, what happened here?
Yeah, it's been a morning of piecing this whole thing together between witnesses and police statements, but we do know it all happened right here at this Bojangles off a very busy Roosevelt Highway Sunday afternoon. This is the parking lot where this all took place. Now, here's what witnesses and police tell us happened. They say that two employees at a Bojangles had an argument, two team members, resulting in one employee calling her father. That man has been identified, the father, as Dominique Goodman. Now, a witness says Goodman approached the employee in the parking lot and the two got into a fight. That account was corroborated by police just minutes ago. Now, that's when the employee, identified as 25-year-old Maurice Evans, pulled a handgun and shot Goodman, who died at the scene. This is all allegedly. An arrest warrant states that Evans was still on the scene when police arrived and did admit to killing Goodman. He's charged with murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a weapon during a commission of a felony. He waived his first court appearance this morning.
Why do people call their family members when they have a dispute with someone? Like, oh, I'm going to call my cousin. I'm going to call my dad. I'm going to call my Uncle Ray Ray. And it's usually females. This teenager had a dispute with her manager on her job. The manager was sent home, but he ended up staying in the parking lot of the job. And the teenager called her father and let him know what was going on. So the dad comes to her job and gets into it with the manager. They have an altercation. The manager ends up unaliving her father. Now everyone has lost. The father is no longer alive. The manager is in jail, possibly heading to prison, and the daughter no longer has her father. Why do you guys call family members in the midst of a dispute? Don't you care about your relative and what may happen to them? Don't you care about their well-being? If it's that dangerous of a situation, why not call the law? Why get your family member mixed up and involved in a situation that has already escalated? Y'all have to stop doing this. It never ends well. Usually it's going to escalate and cause more problems. Stop getting your family members involved and mixed up in your mess. And it tends to be women who are doing this, involving their male family members in their drama, even in relationships. Stop doing this.
December 8th, 2025, around 1:15 in the afternoon, in the parking lot of Bojangles restaurant in Palmetto, Georgia, a father lay lifeless on the pavement. Multiple gunshots had just shattered what should have been a simple conversation between two adults. The man who pulled the trigger? His teenage daughter's shift manager. The reason he was even there? Because his little girl called him, upset about trouble at work. Think about that for a second. A dad responding to his daughter's call for help, and it costs him everything. If you're already feeling that knot in your stomach and you want to see how cases like this unfold, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to Crime Lab Report, and smash that notification bell. Seriously, these stories need to be told. And when you engage, you're helping make sure they don't fade into the background. Every like and subscription keeps the conversation alive and pushes for answers in cases that demand justice. So let's rewind and talk about how we got here, because this case is heartbreaking on every level. Dominique Goodman was 40 years old, living in the Atlanta metro area, working hard as a top salesman at Honda South. By all accounts, he was good at what he did. 3 years with the company, respected by colleagues, known as someone whose life was finally clicking into place. Friends described him as a good man, someone heading in the right direction. He wasn't perfect, none of us are, but he was building something solid for himself and his family. Dominique had a teenage daughter who worked part-time at a Bojangles in Palmetto, a small city about 25 miles southwest of Atlanta. Palmetto is one of those quiet suburban spots where not much happens. The kind of place where people know their neighbors and fast food jobs are common first gigs for teenagers. His daughter was a waitress there, probably saving up some money, learning responsibility, doing what thousands of teens across America do every single day. It was supposed to be safe. It was supposed to be normal. Her shift manager was a 25-year-old man named Maurice Nolan Evans, from nearby Forest Park. He'd been working at that Bojangles location managing shifts, overseeing the younger employees, handling the day-to-day chaos of a busy restaurant. On paper, just another guy doing his job. But on Sunday, December 8th, something went very wrong between Maurice and Dominique's daughter during her shift. We don't know every single detail about what sparked the disagreement that day. What we do know is that Dominique's daughter felt like Maurice was picking on her, that there was some kind of dispute or tension that made her uncomfortable enough to pick up her phone and call her dad. Put yourself in her shoes for a second. You're a teenager at your first job. Your manager is giving you a hard time, and you're frustrated or maybe even scared. What do? You call your parent. That's the most natural thing in the world. And if you're the parent getting that call, what do? You go check on your kid. That's exactly what Dominique Goodman did. But here's where things take a dark turn, and this is the part that makes this case so chilling. What would you do if you were in his position? According to what investigators pieced together, another manager at the Bojangles apparently tried to defuse the situation that afternoon. They sent Maurice Evans home around noon, basically telling him his shift was over and it was time to leave. Problem solved, right? The manager who was causing the issue with the teenage girl would go home. She'd finish her shift in peace. And everyone moves on. Except that's not what happened. And this is where you have to wonder what was going through Maurice's mind. Instead of leaving like he was told, Maurice Evans stayed in that parking lot. He got in his car and he waited. Think about that choice for a second. You've been sent home from work. Your boss told you to leave. But you sit there in your vehicle in the parking lot, knowing that this girl's father is probably on his way. What are you waiting for? What's the plan here? We can't get inside his head, but we know the facts of what he did, and those facts paint a troubling picture. Around 1:15 that Sunday afternoon, Dominique Goodman pulled into Bojangles' parking lot on Roosevelt Highway. He was there to talk to the man who'd been giving his daughter trouble. From everything the family has said, Dominique wasn't coming in hot, looking to start a physical fight or cause a scene. He wanted to have a conversation, adult to adult, about why this grown man was picking on his teenage daughter at her job. That's reasonable, right? You'd probably do the same thing if it were your kid. But Maurice Evans was ready for him. He'd been sitting there, waiting. When Dominique arrived and the two men started talking, things escalated fast. We don't know exactly what words were exchanged in those first moments, whether voices were raised, whether there was pushing or posturing. What we do know, and this part is crucial, is that Maurice Evans got out of his car and made a choice that changed everything. He pulled out a firearm and he discharged it multiple times at Dominique Goodman, right there in broad daylight, in a restaurant parking lot on a Sunday afternoon. Maurice Evans ended Dominique's life. Officers responding to the scene found Dominique dead in that parking lot, his family arriving to witness something no one should ever have to see. His daughter, the one who'd called him for help, had to process the reality that her dad came to protect her and lost his life because of it. Can you imagine being that girl? You call your father about a problem at work, something that probably seemed minor in the grand scheme of things, and the next thing you know, he's gone forever. The guilt, the confusion, the absolute devastation. And this happened just weeks before Christmas, which makes it even more heartbreaking. This family was supposed to be preparing for the holidays. Instead, they were planning a funeral. Maurice Evans didn't run. He didn't try to hide what he'd done. When police arrived at the scene, according to the arrest warrant, Maurice admitted to law enforcement right there that he had ended Dominique Goodman's life. Just straight up confessed on the spot. Officers took him into custody and charged him with serious offenses, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm during the commission of felony, and the main charge that carries the weight of what actually happened. So, how did investigators handle this from the moment they got that call? What did the evidence tell them? And where does this case stand now? Stay with me because the investigation reveals even more about just how preventable this tragedy really was. The Palmetto Police Department responded to the scene that Sunday afternoon and immediately secured the area. This wasn't a whodunit mystery. They had a victim, they had a suspect still at the scene, and they had a confession. Maurice Nolan Evans, 25 years old, was arrested and booked into the Fulton County Jail. The charges were clear: aggravated assault, possession of firearm during the commission of felony, and the big one that reflects the loss of Dominique's life. There was no chase, no manhunt, no weeks of investigation to find the person responsible. He was right there, admitting what he'd done. But here's what makes this case so frustrating when you really break it down. This whole thing was avoidable at multiple points. Maurice was told to go home by another manager. If he just left when he was supposed to, none of this happens. Dominique would still be selling cars at Honda South. His daughter would still have her father. Instead, Maurice made the decision to wait in that parking lot with a firearm, and when confrontation came, he chose to use it. That's not self-defense. That's not standing your ground. That's waiting for someone you know is coming, and making a choice that you can never take back. The investigation continued for hours after the incident. Police spent more than 4 hours processing the scene, gathering evidence, likely pulling surveillance footage from the restaurant and surrounding businesses, interviewing witnesses who were there or nearby. The family was devastated. Marlene Lately, a close family friend, spoke to the media about the senselessness of it all. She talked about how Dominique's daughter now has to live without her father forever, how this happened during what should be a joyful time of year, and how Maurice should have simply gone home like he was told. Bojangles corporate released a statement expressing condolences to the family and confirming that the franchisee was fully cooperating with the investigation. The restaurant closed the next day as investigators continued their work. But for the Goodman family, no corporate statement or police report brings back the man they lost. As of now, Maurice Nolan Evans remains in custody awaiting trial. The legal system will move forward with prosecution, and he'll face a jury that will hear the evidence, the timeline, the confession, everything that led to that moment in the parking lot. The family will have to relive this trauma in court, watching the man who took Dominique from them sit just feet away. That's the reality of seeking justice in cases like this. It's painful, it's slow, and it never truly makes things right. This case forces us to ask some really difficult questions. What pushes someone to make that kind of decision in a moment of conflict? Here's a workplace disagreement with a teenager, something that could have been handled with a simple conversation or a phone call, and it escalated to something fatal. How does that happen? What was going through Maurice's mind when he chose to stay in that parking lot instead of just driving home? And for those of us watching this unfold, how we make sense of a world where a father can't even check on his kid at work without fearing for his safety? Think about the ripple effects here. Dominique's daughter has to carry this for the rest of her life. His family has an empty chair at every holiday table from now on. The community in Palmetto has to process that this level of conflict happened in their quiet town. And we all have to sit with the uncomfortable truth that sometimes tragedy stems from choices that didn't have to be made. If this case hit you the way it hit me, do something about it. Share this video so more people know Dominique Goodman's name and story. Drop your thoughts in the comments about how we prevent these kind of tragedies. Subscribe to Crime Lab Report if you haven't already, because we're committed to telling these stories with the respect and attention they deserve. And check out our other videos where we dive deep into cases that need attention and answers. Let's keep this conversation going, because these stories matter. And so, do the lives behind them